He came tearing down my hunting trail in a gleaming silver SUV, smashing my goose decoy flat as roadkill. The window rolled down, and there was Nathan Holt, all smug in his starched shirt, grinning like he'd just bought the county. HOA's got jurisdiction here, he sneered, voice thick with the kind of self-righteous glee that makes your blood boil. Right then, I knew I was either heading for a fist fight or something sneakier. Lucky for him, I chose sneaky. I've been on this land longer than my old Ford's been leaking oil, and that's saying something. The trail behind my cabin's no public road, it's my refuge. A twisty dirt path, hugged by whispering oaks and littered with brittle leaves, etched into the earth by my granddad and his kin, all hard-headed men in worn flannel who'd rather die than see it paved. Nobody drove it unless they were family, bleeding out, or too drunk to know better, usually all three. That path was sacred, and Nathan, this slick outsider with his HOA clipboard, had just defiled it with his tire tracks and attitude. Nathan wasn't from around here. He'd scooped up the fancy house on the hill 6 months ago, joined the Homeowners Association faster than you can say bylaws, and by month 2 was tossing around rules that sounded like he'd dreamed them up over decaf. Clause 7.3, A forbids unruly vegetation, he'd drone, or no livestock can wander near a street-facing property. First time I met him, he was out front, eyeballing my bird bath with a tape measure like it was a crime scene. Second time, he stuck a Dulo 120 fine on my door because my cedar fence was aesthetic interference for dog walkers. But the third time when he tore up my trail and crushed my decoy, something in my gut snapped. I was gutting a deer that morning, sipping coffee laced with bourbon, when I heard tires crunching over dry leaves. Then the crack of my decoy. Nathan's head popped out of that SUV. Oh, this is unregulated terrain. We're looking at VYing it for utility lines. I stood there, hands bloody, clutching a deer haunch like a weapon, and growled, "Pave it, and I'll sow dandelions in your exhaust pipe." He laughed, thinking I was bluffing, and peeled out, kicking up a storm of dirt. That night, I skipped dinner, poured a stiff drink, and dragged out my welder. The spike trap took 3 hours. Not deadly, I am no psycho, but sharp enough to make a point. Rusted bolts, scrap rebar, an old pitchfork, welded to a busted saw blade, looking like a rabid hedgehog. I buried it just under the trail surface, covered it with leaves, and set it to shred tires clean. Legal? Questionable. Satisfying? Like sinking into a warm bath. Next morning, I sat on my porch, coffee steaming, waiting like it was opening day of hunting season. At 9:50, I heard that SUV's roar, some classical music blasting loud enough to spook every squirrel in the woods. Nathan swung onto my trail, and then bang, a hiss like a balloon popping. The SUV bucked, wobbled, and slumped hard right. Pop, hiss, pop. All 4 tires toast. Brakes screeched, the door flew open, and there was Nathan, staring at his ruined wheels, jaw dropped like he'd seen a ghost. From behind my garden statue, I watched him realize he'd been had. He stood, straightened his bright orange HOA vest, and yanked out his phone, probably dialing a tow truck or his mom. I didn't stick around. I sauntered inside, screen door slamming like a gavel. By lunch, the neighborhood was alive with gossip. Some blamed rogue raccoons. Others said Nathan tried racing through a bog. I kept my mouth shut, except to my pal Ray, a retired Navy guy who once took out a nosy drone with a slingshot. He saw the wrecked SUV, chuckled, and slipped me a cold beer like it was a medal. But Nathan wasn't one to quit. That evening, a notice was stapled to my mailbox. Security violation reported. Surveillance imminent. HOA demands cooperation. It was on now not just me against Nathan, but me against his petty empire. I had tools, though. Not just my rifle, but patience, a junk pile, and neighbor named Clara Vance, a sweet old lady who decoded spy transmissions back when the Cold War was hot. Things got ridiculous fast. Nathan sent his golf cart zipping by my place, firing off emails about unauthorized land alterations. I rigged a scarecrow in my old hunting jacket, propped up with a mirror that beamed sunlight into his new trail camera like a spotlight. He fined my mailbox for being too folksy. I painted my deer antler swing neon green. Neighbors took sides. Ray and a young couple Tim and Ellie had my back, while Nathan's crew, led by a Pilates mom named Sheila, started a chat group called Keep It Classy. It got wild. One night, checking a busted trail cam, I spotted a faint glow deep in the woods. Not a campfire electricity, buzzing where it shouldn't. I crept closer and found a shanty of plywood and cinder blocks, humming with a gas generator and packed with wires and satellite gear. Parked beside it, under a tarp, was Nathan's spare SUV. This wasn't about my trail anymore. Nathan was running something sketchy, maybe criminal. I called Clara. Folks thought she was just a pie-baking grandma, but I knew she'd spent decades at the NSA, sharp enough to make a supercomputer sweat. Over coffee, she said she'd been on to Nathan since he tried finding her tulips. She'd cracked his emails, traced his internet to some offshore server. We teamed up. She set up bugs. I snapped photos of the shack and followed Nathan to a gas station where he swapped a suitcase with a guy in a rented van. Whatever he was beaming out, it wasn't HOA memos. The big moment hit at the HOA meeting. Nathan was pushing a vote to claim my trail as community land, under his control, thinking his loyalists had it sewn up. He didn't know he had a secret weapon. Ray hauled in a generator, I set up a projector, and Clara brought her laptop and cookies because nothing says checkmate like baked goods. As Nathan rambled about his new rule, I stood, tipped my hat, and said, "Folks, let's see what Nathan's been doing on the side." Clara hit play. Photos of the shack, the tech, the shady gas station deal, and a map of his signal bouncing to a blacklisted server. The room went dead quiet, except for a cup hitting the floor. Sheila stood, voice shaking. "Nathan, are you running an illegal radio scam?" His clipboard slipped, face pale as milk, and he mumbled about tech hobbies. Nobody listened. He bolted for the exit, but outside, two feds in a black SUV flashed badges. "Nathan Holt, we need to discuss unauthorized transmissions," they said. The place exploded cheers, gasps, Tim filming it for his socials. Nathan was finished. The HOA board was scrapped, his fines erased, his shack hauled off by guys in hazmat gear. His house went up for sale, no mention of unique wiring. The new HOA, run by folks who just wanted streetlights fixed, banned spying, and locked my trail as a heritage path. I framed that rule and hung it by my door. Clara and I now share coffee Sundays, playing poker while squirrels raid Nathan's old bird feeder. The neighborhood's freer now lawn's a bit shaggy, flags at odd angles. I walk my trail each dawn, thermos in hand at peace. One day, a buck stood where Nathan's SUV died, stared me down, then slipped into the trees. Might have been the bourbon. Nathan wrote a book, I Wanted Order, my HOA story, with him posing like a knight on the cover. I bought 10 copies, mailed one to each old board member, and burned the rest at our bonfire. I didn't win because I was slick or loaded. I won because I was stubborn, had a welder, and a neighbor who could outsmart a satellite. You can't tame grit. The land always comes out on top. So what do you think? Was I right to fight dirty, or did I cross a line? Should Nathan have been exposed, or did he deserve a warning first? Was this justice, or just revenge? Drop your take below, smash that like button, and subscribe for more stories that'll keep you arguing all night.